So, thank you, Svetlana.
Thank you.
Then I will take one more before break, and I have been told that Julia Traika will join us in the end of this session. So then it is Upasak Bose. Are you ready to be the presenter of the next presentation? The future of cooperation between Russia and the Western world for socio-economic development of the Arctic in the context of sanctions and geopolitical crisis.
Yeah.
Please, Upasak, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will just share my screen. Just give me 1 sec, please. Is my screen visible? PPT, is it visible?
No.
Now it is.
Now it is. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So, good morning to everyone. Myself, Upasak Bose. I'm a PhD student of South Europe State University of Chelyabinsk, Russian Federation, and I'm also a member of an organization known as Arctic Youth, about which I'll be discussing a little bit later. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity, because I believe this topic today is one of the most relevant topics that we can discuss. And although it's very closely related to my PhD research, because my PhD research topic is related to socio-economic crisis in Arctic, especially the Russian Arctic. But today I have thought of talking about something more global and more general. So I'll move on. So this is the global Arctic that we are going to discuss today. And why I showed this picture, because it is to show that Arctic is a region which is unique in its own, and it's not just related to some particular geography or some particular society or some particular community. It's a region which is, like, we can say today it's separate, but on the other hand, it's very much integrated with the rest of the world. And so it's not a standalone complex that whatever happens in Arctic doesn't affect us or doesn't affect any other place. It affects everyone. So we should, when we are talking about global Arctic, we should go beyond international politics, we should go beyond geopolitics, and we should think about something that is very different, something that is very unique and which affects all of us. So let's move on. So Arctic has been a laboratory of Russia and Western cooperation since history. It's not just today. It has been there since history, since the formation of the Arctic Council in 1996. Because the Arctic Council was formed with the very basic idea that it will be free and independent of any kind of geopolitical tension or geopolitical crisis, and will work only and only for the benefit and the welfare of the Arctic, especially the Arctic people, the indigenous people of the Arctic. Why did I mention this? Because I guess it is the same for Europe and the same for Russia, that when we talk about Arctic, our first and foremost priority are the people, are the indigenous people, because they have their own unique culture, they have their own unique customs, traditions, everything, and that is something that we need to protect, which should be our first priority. And I believe it goes the same for Europe as well, because I've been updated about some of the activities of the European Union, especially the other countries of European Arctic, and they have been doing particularly quite well in this sphere. So yeah, and Russia has also taken pace now, and Russia is also doing whatever is possible in its position to bring about welfare of the indigenous people of Arctic. So what are the spheres in which Russia and the West can cooperate even today? It can be in the sphere of energy, environment, science, research and development, academics. Why I'm saying all these? Because these are some of the spheres or some of the domains that are very closely related and very much integrated with the Arctic. Arctic is, as we know, is one of the hubs or powerhouses of energy, and almost 50% of the Russian Arctic region is located in Russia. So the Arctic region in Russia is one of the, is not one, it's actually the most important if we are talking about Russia, and it also has around 2.5 million population, which is a huge population considering its Arctic. And most importantly, the Russian Arctic has been urbanized since history, since the Soviet Union. So it already has a set of infrastructure, a set of uh, machinery already ready. It's already there. What we need to do is we need to channelize this infrastructure that is already there and existing, and we need to upgrade it according to our current requirements. And of course, science diplomacy and academics is also relevant over here because when we talk about Arctic, we talk about cooperation. We talk about cooperation between Russia and the Western world. And when I'm saying Western world, I don't mean only Europe. I mean I include Canada and the US as well because they are also important stakeholders in the Arctic. So and cooperation comes right from the very basic level of academics. It comes from the very basic level of the universities because the universities are the main centers of research. So if we have a very smooth and seeming cooperation at the basic academic level and the university level, then of course we can achieve higher objectives. And finally, as I already said, what happens in Arctic today does not stay in the Arctic. It actually moves beyond Arctic and affects all. And on one hand, if we say, then this is of course, this is an opportunity because it opens a lot of new routes for international trade. It opens the Northern Sea route for international trade, especially in summer, because scientists have already predicted that at around 2040 we will be having iceless summers in the Arctic, and it opens a huge trade route for cooperation with the West and the East. But at the same time, it also produces risks in terms of loss of biodiversity, loss of indigenous lives, because the lives in Arctic, the indigenous life and the flora and fauna of Arctic, they are heavily dependent upon the climatic condition that is existing at this point of time, and they would not be able to survive if there is such a drastic change in the climatic conditions. So that is why our objective has to be balanced, and we have to be very specific about what our objectives in the Arctic, and there should be a balance between economic development and ecological protection. And also, of course, as I said, 50% of the Arctic region lies in Russia. So most of the data that is obtained regarding Arctic, technical data you can say, regarding Arctic, it's obtained from Russia. So Russian cooperation with Europe is utter necessary even today, regardless of any other geopolitical tensions that is happening. And at the same time, it's not only about data, it's also about technical expertise. So Russian scientists have been working in the Arctic since the last, maybe 100 years. And we already have a huge technical know-how, and we already have a huge knowledge base regarding the Arctic, which I'm pretty sure Europe would be able to use for good purpose. And at the same time, we also need a lot of EU technologies, because EU technology is one of the finest and the most one of the highest quality technology that we can use. So the cooperation between Russia and Europe, or Russia and the West regarding Arctic, is very much mutual, and it actually serves the purpose of both the parties. So that is why there should be a continued cooperation at this level. And where can we possibly cooperate? So there are various regions and various fields where we can cooperate. As I've already mentioned, one of the biggest areas of cooperation is academics, and at the same time, there can be also cooperation in terms of technology, as I said, because there can be technology sharing, there can be knowledge sharing between scientists and specialists from Russia and the West, and will be beneficial to both the regions. There can be other types of cooperation in terms of fisheries, in terms of reindeer herding, which is one of the most important occupations of the indigenous people of Russia, and of course the indigenous people of Europe. Also, there can be negotiations on the treaties and agreements that are already existing. on in terms of biodiversity protection, and of course the monetary systems, the climate science, and the maritime research. Because the law of the sea, it is not only specific to the not only specific to Russia. It is a law which involves all the countries, and the Arctic Ocean is a place which is like it's just not belonging to a one particular country or something. It is a place which is like everyone has an access to it, and there has to be some international guidelines and international sovereignty which controls that region. So that is why cooperation at that level is mandatory. It's imperative. So when I was talking about the indigenous people, that is the first. That should be the first priority for both the West and Russia regarding Arctic, because, as I said, the indigenous people of Arctic, they have their own culture, they have their own beliefs, which is very much specific and very unique. And already we have lost many of the languages, the native languages of Arctic. So we don't want that to further increase, and we don't want to lose whatever we have already. And those are the people who do not have any connection with, like, who have very little connection with what's going on in the world, in whatever crisis that's happening in the world right now. And we as academicians, and we as social scientists, and we as part of groups which work for the Arctic, it's our duty and it's our responsibility to be beyond, to think beyond any other kind of problems or crisis, and only focus on our set goals and the set objectives that we have set out for. And that is why our sole objective should be to protect the people, to give them employment, to give them a touch of modernization, to enable them to use the modern technologies and modern science and modern knowledge. Basically, the idea is to modernize their lives and make and improve their lives, so that they can have the touch of modernity, and at the same time they can follow their own culture and beliefs without any kind of outside interference. And this is one of the most important reasons for which there should be a cooperation, or the cooperation between Russia and the West should continue, especially in terms of Arctic. So now, as we know that this year the chairmanship of the Arctic Council has moved to Norway, and Norway has been a country that has always followed a very balanced approach to the West and Russia, and we already have the northern dimension where Russia and Norway has been cooperating for a very long time, and we believe that with this, the basic level cooperation between Russia and the West will continue regarding development of the Arctic. And for this, the focus should be more on the less at the ministerial level and more at the knowledge level. So when I talk about the knowledge level, I talk about like groups like the working groups, the task forces, the expert groups, because these are the groups who are special, that consist of specialists. These are the people who have some particular knowledge about some particular domain that is not that other groups of people doesn't have. So these are the people who can work specifically on some particular regions of the Arctic, and they can bring about welfare. So the focus now should be more on the working groups and the task forces. But at the same time, there should negotiations at the ministerial level and at the higher level should go on, should continue. That's also there. And what about the probable risks that the Arctic face today? So when I talk about risks, I talk about mainly two kinds of risks, or rather three: social risks, political risks, and economic risks. So if I talk about the political and social risks, so as we know that since Russia, most of the Western companies that had been operating in the Arctic, like for example British Petroleum, the French Total, and even the Norwegian Equinor. So these are some of the companies that have already moved out of Russia and Arctic, and these places have been taken over by non-Arctic countries, for example India and China. And
excuse me, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. So that is why the protection of the sovereignty of the Arctic is very important, and in this case, the cooperation between the West and the Arctic should continue. And of course, there shall be economic risks as well, because the GDP and because Europe is facing inflation and GDP like GDP reduction right now due to the oil crisis. So this is the gas dependence of Europe from Russia, which most of you I think know. So I will not discuss in details. And about this collaboration, I've already explained. So I will not. I'll just move on. These are some of the ways by which we can cooperate. So I will talk about Arctic Youth. So Arctic Youth is an organization which we are working, and we are a group of people who are specialists on Arctic from different backgrounds, and we work with different people from different countries for the overall development of Arctic. And any person from the age of 18 to 35 can join us who is interested in working towards the development of the sustainable development of Arctic. And our objective is to unite experts and social and specialists from all around the globe, and to share knowledge, to gather knowledge and information only for the betterment of Arctic. And of course, we are unique today, we are relevant today because Arctic is one of the most important and unique topics today. And so that is why it's important that we work on this domain. And we work in different directions such as people, science, environment, culture, media, and economy. So I request and I invite all of you who are specialists in Arctic to please join us. If you are interested, please join us. We will be more than happy to work with our Western partners for our common goal of protection of the Arctic and bringing about sustainable socio-economic development of the Arctic. And these are some of the events that we have participated in. And finally, this is our, you can follow us on YouTube, share and comment, and also you can join us in our social media contact. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Upasak. Now, Heather.
Great. Hello. Thank you for your presentation. It's Heather Nicol, Trent University, and I applaud. I think what you said, in all contexts, but particularly about the importance of continuity for Indigenous people, Indigenous people's culture and mobility across borders, is really, really important. And earlier this week I talked about that one in my presentation. There's two places, and I'm just going to read the names to you. Tartu Palak, which is the island area, which is there's an agreement between Denmark and Canada, but for Indigenous peoples. And there's also the Sasorlak, which is the North Water Polenia in that area, which does the same thing. But and so that's wonderful. But that requires state governments to actually come to some kind of agreement and understanding that in fact there's a validity and a transnationalism to Indigenous groups. And so how you see that playing out? I mean, is that something that how would you engage to create that differentiation between sort of the larger geopolitical picture and the understanding of state governments that there are Indigenous sovereignties and their mobilities, and allow those to take place even in the current geopolitical context?
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah. So when I was talking about the Indigenous people, of course, transnational or transcontinental mobility is definitely one of the factors. But my sole purpose over here was to the idea that if there's a climate change, if there's a climate crisis, maybe in one part of Arctic, it actually affects the people, the Indigenous people in another part of Arctic. So it's not necessarily that there has to be a kind of movement or mobility, but the destruction of maybe the destruction of a part of the culture of one section of Indigenous community. For example, the Sami. Okay, the Sami tribe is one of the biggest Arctic tribes today that's existing, but there are smaller tribes that have already perished. So what I'm saying is, so the global climate crisis is something that is universal, that is not related to only Russia, and that's not related to only Europe. So my idea was that if we consider the Arctic to be a region that is free from or beyond international politics, and having the motive of solely providing protection and benefit and all kind of privileges to the local population, then mobility is a part of it. But mobility is definitely not the most important part of it, because even if there is no mobility and each country have its own sovereignty over its own Arctic region, but still climate crisis in Finland or a climate crisis in Norway or in Russia, it has a universal effect all over the Arctic. So my idea over here is to create an environment, a political environment or a social environment, which will help us to like work for the Arctic indigenous people, irrespective of any other geopolitical or social crisis that's happening in any other part of the world. And as a matter of fact, the Arctic Council was built with this basic idea. And there has been like geopolitical crisis even in the past. If we consider the last 30 years, there had been geopolitical crisis, but the Arctic Council has worked beyond all this kind of crisis, and it has worked only towards towards object like achieving its own purpose or own goal. So I believe if we just can continue this the same trend that has been there in the last 30 years, then I guess it's fine. We don't need to work anything extra beyond that. Thank you.
Actually, if I thank you, and I agree, with the premise, and I think that you're right, but I'm thinking, and if I could just sort of add one quick thing, that I think that the real difficulty, or if we carry on as normal, it's not going to happen. So there's real difficulty. I mean, with for example, every time there's a sort of environmental refugee situation, say across the Bering Strait, which there have been a number of them where folks from the Russian side, basically Chukotka and those areas, have turned up on the American side, they're returned immediately, even if they're indigenous people. So I think that in principle this is great, but I think you've identified something. It can't be just business as normal. I mean, there really has to be some effort and some change and some attention paid, however that works to that particular issue, because it's not, the Arctic Council can't really deal with that. There has to be a more agreement on more specific levels, I guess. So, I mean, I think it's a great thing. And I'm just going to stop you and say I think it's absolutely agree. But there's a lot of issues and factors that contribute to this, and I think we need to pay more attention to how that situation, mobility, and connectivity could work.
Yes, of course, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, definitely, because the geopolitical, because we live in a world where we have real politics today, and real politics, it has an effect in every aspect of our life. So just saying something ideal doesn't make it happen. So of course there has to be a real effort from both the ends in order to meet this objective. I agree with you 100%. Thank you.
Laura, just Urban.
Yeah, my name is Urban Rockberg from the Arctic University of Norway. You mentioned Norway and the flexibility in the politics that Norway have had, and in border collaboration, but also in collaboration between universities. So I suggest actually that the Calotte Academy, this year's the partners in it, take under consideration to join my group in Northern Studies that will explain to the Dean this fall our ideas on Northern Studies as an online program. We have a discussion with Heather, Trent University. We have a discussion with the University of Alaska, Anchorage. And we are anyhow going to suggest to do something multilateral on teaching and using online resources and sharing in this to provide online teaching. And why not add a leg on this, a discussion on re-entering Russian students into the program that we used to have. And the format. The foreign minister of Norway, she knows some of us in the program. She has talked to our students last year, Anniken Huitfeldt. She is open to formats here. We have a discussion with the foreign ministry in Norway. So I think instead of leaving it to the scientists to start up and changing and monitoring and playing neutral guys, we can actually produce and come up with a program based on the models of the University of the Arctic, other proven stuff that is dealing with a thing that could be feasible for anyone interested in the Arctic. So I think we should do something concretely, make a statement, and carry on along these lines. It can work, and then we can probably avoid all the ideas of who is going to get the points, who is going to have the tuition fees, and let these be just individual students coming into the program and skip the institutional relationships to start with. So that's my suggestion for this year's Calotte Academy.
So to skip all the university bureaucracy.
Yeah, but you can fund this by, if you talk to the foreign ministry, at least in Norway, you can speak in Finland to the contemporary, the partners in this. And if our university works like if the politicians goes in from the top, something happens. If I say something, people laugh and kick me out, But that's how we do it. But if Minister of Knowledge or the foreign ministry say, we would like to see a little bit more of this stuff going on, that was quite, neutral and politically uncomplicated. Nobody has to travel across the borders, no visas, just online.
Okay, thank you, Upa. So, Upasak, would you like to comment this proposal?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, of course, that's actually one of the brilliant ideas, and actually I was also thinking about it. And as a matter of fact, that's why we have our group called Arctic Youth. So it's an organization which is completely social and non-governmental, and we involve the students and researchers, not only experts, but the students who are doing their maybe bachelor's or master's, and who are interested in sustainable development of the climate, especially in the Arctic, to join us across different universities from different countries to help us in our common work. And as a matter of fact, I think this is a good mobility program, because we have slowly started to organize our own conferences. We have started to organize our own roundtable conferences and even seminars where actually students and experts from any country, maybe Finland, maybe Sweden, all of you can join us and share ideas and share your information, which will have a mutually beneficial effect for all of us. So I think we can use this platform as a starting platform. And I completely agree with you that we have to involve the students and the academicians at the university level. Only then we can achieve something. And of course, there has to be a ministerial agreement also, because as you said, when they say something, it doesn't matter. But when a minister says something, it becomes something substantial. So of course, there has to be an interaction at the ministerial level also. I agree with you.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, hello, thank you. I hope it's not inappropriate, but I Googled you and I found that you are from India, actually. I maybe studied in France before. And this was because I was thinking, what I wanted to ask is that, of course, the title of your talk is about Western Russia cooperation in the context of Arctic. But of course, the current situation has also kind of encouraged Russia look towards other countries and other directions. And India is a big science country. China is a big science country. So I'm just wondering, do you see, you mentioned that the risk with the cooperation with China is, from Russia perspective, I suppose, was the components that you're not sure if they are the same quality. But would you like to more broadly comment, what do you think are the benefits and possibly the not benefits of Russia scientific community maybe turning more towards east and south in terms of cooperation and research around the Arctic? Sorry, I don't know if I put this question very well, but how do you see that affecting whatever are the goals that you would like to see taking place in the Arctic?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I was expecting this question. Yeah, so from my perspective, I have a mixed opinion about this. First of all, actually, I didn't get time to explain that slide in detail, so it's my mistake actually. Okay, but so Russia is definitely turned towards the east in the current situation, because of course we understand it's only possible because of the sanctions and all. And China and India both are actually technologically advanced today, and they have been providing a lot of support in these difficult times. And so, of course, the technology, because till now Russia had been using most of the Western technology and the technology from EU in its scientific purposes and research in the Arctic. But due to, as I said, due to the exit of these companies, and particularly we have lost some of our Western partners, and we have moved east-west. Of course, it is a substitute for the Western technology, but at the same time, I would personally say that, and not only personally, the facts have proven that the quality of the products or the quality of the machinery or the technology that is available from the East might not match up to the Western standards even today, even though China is a technologically advanced country today, but the standards of the technology might not match. And at the same time, I believe personally that there is a problem of mass immigration, as I mentioned in my presentation, that Russian Arctic is a zone that is very fragile in terms of its social aspects, and in terms of protection of the social culture and the and the local languages and the culture and the traditions, we have to maintain the indigenous culture has to be on the priority. So personally, I would say that I welcome the technology from the East, especially from India and China. But I'm also a little bit skeptical about the mass movement of people in the Arctic, because that might have a negative impact on the social lives of the indigenous people. So I believe that today our international policy of Russia, that is our policy, has to be positioned in such a way that it has to maintain a balance between the technological imports that we are doing from the East, and as well as the benefits that the local people are getting. So if there is a new company or if there's a new technology that is installed in Russian Arctic from China or from India, my personal opinion is that the first preference should go to the local people. So the local people should be taught how to use that technology. The local people should be given the kind of education and the kind of skills necessary to use that technology, because that will generate more employment for the local population, which is supposed to be the first priority of the Russian Federation in today's condition. So of course, technology transfer will be there. Once it was from the West, today it is mostly from the East. Maybe things will change later again in the future. But the sole purpose is to provide and generate opportunities in terms of employment, in terms of education, in terms of healthcare for the local people, and not from outside. That's what my personal opinion is on that matter. Thank you.
You comments, questions? Yeah, good.
Yes, hello, Upasak. My name is Gleb. I'm from University of Eastern Finland, but previously from Russia.
Okay.
And my question is about the practical issues, maybe, because you said that the Arctic is global, of course. And what happens in the Arctic has global effects, but also Arctic is not situated in vacuum. I mean that the other things happening in other parts, they also affect the Arctic, including the Arctic cooperation. And now, I mean, in practical terms, how we can continue. How we can go beyond politics or geopolitics, and how we can continue also academic cooperation in a situation when you Russian researchers now, you do not have freedom of expression, you do not have academic freedom. I mean, yes, we can use euphemisms and call a violent military conflict, which is now happening in Ukraine, a geopolitical crisis, but it is not just a geopolitical crisis. It's much more, and it's also a crisis of values and clash of values worldwide and in between Russia and the West, unfortunately. And how we can, of course, we can continue. We should continue sharing data in climate change, the carbon dioxide, etc. But how we can discuss academically, politically sensitive issues, without jeopardize you and without making you into safety issues, because we don't know who is listening to us now. And I cannot, even me from Finland now, I cannot name the things as they are. I need to use euphemism not to endanger you. So yeah, that's my question: how we should continue also academic cooperation in the situation when there is no academic freedom in Russia. That's my point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, I partly agree with you that today the condition is such that there can be there has to be a kind of partial collaboration, because full-fledged collaboration is not possible right now because of less mobility and less freedom to move from Russia to the West and vice versa, because that problem is there, which is a temporary problem, I believe. So what we can do right now, if you are talking about right now, what we can do is, like, for example, today we are having this Calotte Academy meeting online, and no one is no country in the world is going to stop anyone from doing this kind of engaging in this kind of activities. And we are having a interactive session over here, sharing our knowledge, sharing information, sharing ideas. So we can continue doing this right now. We can have online conferences, online forums, meetings where experts can share their own opinions, ideas, and implementation. Of course, I understand is difficult in today's current situation, but implementation will happen. If not today, maybe tomorrow. So because nothing goes on forever, so everything will have an end. But what I believe for today, what we can do is, and even there is a kind of, even there is possibility of movement of students, because I know that there are some exchange programs for Russian students in Europe, and as a matter of fact, some programs in Russia for European students that are still happening. And so student mobility is still there. I understand that you are talking about some particular terms or some particular some things that we are not supposed to talk about, or it's not good to talk about. But I believe that we can contribute to academics without engaging in active politics. So I believe that even if we avoid those kind of controversial statements or terms, we can still be fruitful and be have a positive contribution towards academics. So, and we can continue having these online seminars, because online seminars and conferences actually help a lot in sharing of ideas. I've been doing it personally since the last 2 years, and I have gained a lot of experience from this. And we actually had participants from Europe even in the last conference that I visited. And that our effort should be to achieve our goals and success and our objectives without engaging in any kind of controversial statements or something that is not acceptable today. So I believe online forums and online meetings are possible very much, and we can continue this online platform for the time being. Thank you.
There is one more question. Michelle, please.
Thank you. Can you explain what would happen if you use these particular terms? What type of freedoms? What would happen? What's the?
Let's I'm very sorry, but let's not discuss this right now, because there is no positive impact. Even if we discuss this, even if everything is fine, but there is no positive impact to it. So I personally believe that when as we as academicians. If there's no need for making political statements, then let's not do it. Let's have our focus fixed on the things that we want to achieve through our work. So I believe that's the thing, because there's no need to actually, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I mean, during this 1 week we have discussed a lot on the one hand, freedom, independence of science research, and then on the other hand, about the geopolitical reality. And of course, I mean, the Arctic region is not isolated from world politics simply because there is state sovereignty there. And then, but at the same time, we could, of course, find fields where we can cooperate. And you said one key word, how to differentiate. Differentiation is the key word here. How to find the common ground on certain fields of law politics. Thank you, Upasak.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's have a break now, 20 minutes, and continue at 11 a.m. Finnish time.